for my close-up. Okay, good morning, everybody. As we have a quorum in place at 8:03 a.m., I am calling to order this meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust Working Group. This is a meeting being conducted by remote participation. And as part of that, I need to read a statement regarding the governor's order and open meeting law. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust Working Group will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Westborough's website. For us, this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner: via Westborough TV. It is being broadcast live on Charter and Verizon Fios, as well as on westboroughTV.org, and it will be available on YouTube as well. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Westborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And I do want to thank Westborough TV for adding this meeting to their ever-growing cadre of meetings that they are recording, broadcasting, and simulcasting, and making available to the public. We appreciate that very much. Our first order of business today is any discussion and vote on the approval of minutes from our last meeting of September 4th. And so, do I have a motion?
I so move.
And a second.
Red, second.
Okay. Any discussion, comments, corrections on the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote in order of the graph of the matrix on my screen. Mr. Bain.
Bain, yes.
Mr. Dorette.
Dorette, yes.
Ms. Moya.
Yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So the minutes are approved as presented by a vote of 4-0-0, 4 being present. Okay. Next up, we'll quickly go through the community section, community effort, and I'll provide a quick co-urbanized update. We'll talk about updates to the outreach presentation and the current outreach to boards, committees, and community groups. The co-urbanize, I sent some information out earlier, but for the public, right now we have, I can pull up the statistics for the analytics. Let me share that very quickly for folks. Okay, so, basically, as we know, there are a couple of metrics that the co-urbanized system tracks for us. One is it, lets us know how many comments are out there that we've replied or not replied to, with the recommendation that 75 to 80% of comments receive some sort of reply from us as the project team. Right now, we're at 94%. Those replies are included in the total number of comments as part of the engagement analysis. The site also has a little bit of an artificial intelligence machine learning engine that looks at keywords and phrasing in some of the comments and gets whether the sentiment is positive, neutral, or negative. At this point, our negative sentiment is only 3%. I went through comments and tried to figure out, okay, so where is the negative sentiment? Looking at the comments, and you guys can do this as well if you're so inclined, there isn't any negative sentiment right now that says what we're doing in this effort's a bad idea. There's some negative sentiment about the cost of rent in Westborough. There are a couple of comments that may have been interpreted by the system as negative. So I'm not worried about that. The guidance from the folks at Courbanize is that's still a very low percentage when you start talking about affordable housing and development and change in a community. And so overall, our sentiment is 63% positive and 34% neutral, which is good. Most of the replies to comments are seen as neutral, so the overwhelming sentiment from those who are engaging with us is positive. And at last count, we have 39 followers who get a periodic email about once a week with updates to the site unless we post an update. Some of the things we have done on the site and some of the things that'll happen coming up is we did post a second update, letting people know that we've added some additional information that some of the commenters had asked about or based on comments felt was a need to provide. And so we've got some additional content being developed, now and over the weekend that we'll be adding next week as well. And so all of the subscribers received a notice that there was an update pointing to these primers. It drew a little action back on the site. Going into the site, the other thing we've done is I shared out, and this gets in, is we looked at, and I solicited out for other questions that we could ask on the site. I received, several suggestions from folks, and I appreciate that. The challenge is the question window is limited to 150 characters, so I've done some condensing and rewording a little bit, hopefully without changing the intent. And those have actually now been, let me go here, I can show you what that looks like. Those have been put into the system as drafts. And so knowing that we sent out an update yesterday, and you don't want to inundate people with updates, some point over the weekend, I'll pick two of the questions and add them to the site, replacing the one about local attractions that we've archived, and we'll probably pull out the getting to know you one as well, as that's a poll and people haven't responded lately to that. Pick two of these questions, add it in, and then Monday send out an update and hit social media again that we've got more questions we want to ask. Some of these questions came from our team. I also want to thank John, who is hanging out with us as well as sitting on the Master Planning Advisory Committee. Some of the questions here are questions of interest to the housing group, the Master Plan Committee as well. And so we'll help gather that information. Obviously we'll share all of the information we're gathering and all the work we're doing as their effort starts ramping up again this fall. And so that's where we are with the site. Any questions or concerns about the website at this point?
Alan, just one quick comment. I'm looking at it now. Question C on that document should probably say, where should the town focus future housing efforts?
Okay.
So maybe take out the on.
Excellent. I saved 3 characters as well. Although where is longer than what? I mean, I've literally gotten into ampersand versus A&D, things of that nature. Good catch. I'll make the change on the site as well before I post that question. Is we as individuals talk to people? Are you finding people interested in the topic or interested in engaging and having conversations?
I've talked to a few people and they're definitely see the need, to provide affordable housing in different ranges, everything from young, starting out families or singles, and then back to the far end of seniors. So they think anything that can be done will be positive to the town. That's the general takeaway I've been getting.
Okay. Valeria, as you've talked to people about our efforts, what have you been hearing?
Yes, there's a lot of topics that they've been asking regarding about like options for the younger kids when they finish college. What is the option for them having the opportunity to, to own an apartment or help out with rental? And also as well is that, like I mentioned, I think with you yesterday regarding about Somerville offered if you work in Somerville for over 3 or 5 years, you can apply for affordable housing, but may maintain the job in there. And I don't know, it's something that in here they can be done also Westborough, for example, having a family living and Oxbridge or Grafton, if they can be applying for affordable if they work in over 3 or 5 years plus in Westborough. The other topic that I spoke really with a family is that what happens if for example, X person buys a house and this person financially, is okay in couple 3 or 5 years is okay, and they can allow to buy another house in different town, and in that way that will be able to keep the house in Westborough. How is going to be managed in that situation?
Okay. Yeah, so Valerie and I talked a little bit about that last one yesterday. I actually don't know what the rules are or how that last scenario works, but it's something we can look into. And Valerie, you also mentioned the concept of encouraging affordable two-family purchases, where a family can live in one and help make the property affordable by renting out the other.
Yes.
And I'm just making some notes here. Okay. And Steve, any feedback in your conversations with members of the community?
No, I haven't had any feedback yet.
Okay. And then I'll open it up to Leah, Bill, and John as well. As you've been, I don't know, Bill, if you want to go first, conversations you've had or what you're hearing.
Yeah, there's been brief conversations with people. It's more along the lines of what Ed said. They're very interested in the subject. When only 2 really out of a dozen or so, they'd like to hear when they watch Westborough TV in your meeting, they'd like to hear more from the other members. It's getting to the point of Alan, Ed, and Steve really saying quite a few things. So it's nice to hear from Valerie today, and others should join in so that it doesn't look like a 3-man team that have been behind this all the way, that it's a flavor in the community. So I think that's very important for the others to speak up.
Okay, so noted.
Thank you.
I'm glad Valerie is participating as well. And I'm still hoping that Amy and Jennifer are able to join us later in the meeting today. John, any feedback from community?
Yeah, so the stuff I hear is kind of what I hear every time I talk about affordable housing. It's people are in support of it, but then a couple of days later, conversation changes, and those same people are concerned that affordable housing is going to affect housing prices and all this other stuff. So I think it's just an education issue and getting more information out there. I don't know the best way, but just showing, and I was taking a quick peek on the co-urbanized site, and I think the answers are pretty good, where People say, my property values are going to be affected, or they say we need to keep the property prices high. And there's a study, the response was a study shows that affordable housing doesn't necessarily lower property prices. So I think getting that information out is probably going to be helpful.
Okay. Is that something, do you think we should feature in an update and on social media?
Addressing the property prices type thing?
Yeah.
I don't think it would hurt. I feel like that's the biggest concern for everybody, right? Housing has become an investment, and people are going to try and protect their investment, whether it's right or wrong. So getting the information out there, I think, will maybe change a few minds, hopefully.
Okay, we can certainly put that into the rotation. And Leah, feedback is you've been interacting with the community as well.
Hi. So yeah, a lot of people are interested. A lot of people are concerned as well, like similar to a lot of what people are saying, rent costs, keeping costs low for elderly people in the community. Same, a lot of the same. But people are interested. And there are people that I've spoken to that are interested in potentially doing something, wanting to volunteer as well to try to get this going too. So that's it.
Okay, that's good to hear. Particularly that people want to get involved and do it. Please, everyone, as you talk to people, and they have ideas and opinions, and if they say they want to get involved, encourage them to go to the site, answer the questions, provide feedback, and make suggestions. I think it's very interesting, and it's not necessarily even the purview of the trust. It would be more of, zoning issues, but we've had some people interact with the site who then have followed up with email, and as the information arrives, I'll share it out with the team. One resident sent a sample zoning ordinance that allows a small community of tiny homes
That's awesome.
on what would normally be a single, a large single family plot or piece of land. Others have sent information about co-housing and multi-generational housing, and some other creative solutions. A suggestion about more flexibility with accessory dwelling units, where you might have your parents or your in-laws not living in the house or in an apartment built within your house, but a separate small freestanding building, whether it's a garage or a barn or something constructed permanently or temporarily. And so I think that's been a good aspect of the feedback that I've seen as well.
Awesome.
So I think we're doing well with the outreach. I did earlier this week, and I'll send out and share a document with boards and committees as well as nonprofits. There's been outreach as far as making presentations and furthering the discussion with the Board of Selectmen, which will most likely be on October 13th. I attended last night's Advisory Finance Committee meeting, which was both about them seeing the presentation as well as they're starting to do their discussion review of the warrant articles for special fall town meeting. I have emails and requests out to the Housing Partnership Committee, the Westborough Housing Authority, the Planning Board, which will possibly be October 6th or October 20th. Youth and Family Services and Diversity and Inclusions approached us about presenting there. I still need to contact the Council on Aging and the Master Plan Advisory Committee. Additionally, we've been invited to present at the Civic Club on Tuesday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. If there's someone who would like to join me for that or take the lead on that, please let me know.
Would that be a virtual meeting, I assume?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And when it's gonna be? I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Tuesday, November 3rd at 7 p.m.
I can be in the meeting.
Okay, great.
Alan Billinane, I'm on the Civic Club, so I will be there and can support as a listening member.
Okay, great. That's booked. So I'll continue to share out the opportunities for the community presentation as the responses come in. And I'm also going to send out a list of nonprofits if people have contacts there that they could approach about us going to possibly attending some of their remote meetings. That would be great as well. And pardon?
Alan? Yeah, this is Ed. I'm thinking the Westborough Interfaith Group might be, I don't know if they're still doing virtual meetings or what, but since so many of the churches, synagogues, et cetera, are doing social justice work in one way or another, I think they may be a good audience.
Okay. Do you have?
I will try to I'm going to meet actually with Monsignor Foley right after this meeting. So I will try to remember to get an update from him, and I'll let you know what their, what their mode of operation is these days.
Okay. And which member of the clergy is leading the effort that we would coordinate with?
Right.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll get that information.
Bill and here, Kara, Youth and Family Services, probably another good one, hands-on, she coordinates that whole effort. So Ed, if you can talk to her, that'd be good.
Who? Kara Priestley?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have that already, don't you, Alan?
Yeah, Kira actually approached us and asked if we would come both to the Youth Commission meeting as well as a Diversity and Inclusion Committee meeting. She's on both of those committees.
But I believe she's also on Interfaith also. She kind of coordinates.
Oh.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'll find out when I talk to Monsignor.
She'd have more hands-on than Monsignor, probably.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Thank you, Bill. Okay. So that is where we are with respect to the community outreach. Okay, so next on the agenda is discussion and review of the Declaration of Trust. Last week, before our last meeting, Hank had sent out, and I had shared during the meeting, the trust with some highlights. I know Hank is unable to attend this morning because of a scheduling conflict. Are people ready to discuss the Declaration of Trust, or if not, that's fine. We still have time to finish this work given the timing now for special town meeting. We can bring it up again at our next meeting and wrap it up then.
Could we get a version, excuse me, I know what Hank shared, if I remember correctly, was a lot of areas that needed to be filled in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if we could get a version that was as complete as possible, just in case it might draw some questions, or if there are questions, he could put them in saying, how should we handle this point? That may be more helpful, and that way, and then defer it to our next meeting.
Okay, so a version that highlights areas for discussion and sort of options, pros and cons?
That, or yes, and filled in, or at least the proposal, I would go with, here's what maybe, he and Steve together could propose, and then note it as such, and then we can discuss. It's always good to start with a proposal, and then if there's an issue, people can say, well, we need to maybe think about that, or here's an alternative.
Okay. Okay. I'll talk to Hank and Will. He can work with Steve and or with me, and we can do that together and get that out for our next meeting. Okay. So with nothing further on the actual declaration of trust document, good, we're ahead of schedule. We'll move forward with the analysis, recommendation, and action items report. So Ed, you're doing a great job coordinating, pulling a pretty significant document together. So I'm going to hand it over to you for an overview and a highlight of any areas you feel require any, final or further discussion.
Right. I think at this point, we set out what we're calling draft 9, and I'll say it's complete to the sense that there are no sections that we've decided to include that are empty. So it's a complete document now. It could stand on its own. Some of the I can mention some of the things we touched on. Give me one sec. I'll just bring this up. I think, yeah. Just going to bring up our to-dos. We did, Alan and I reviewed some stuff a week ago, just to try to button down the last punch list. And this is what you see. I think people, hopefully you can read it. It's affordable housing document to-dos. Let me increase the size a little bit. So basically, not too much. We did a little bit of work on the executive summary with, closing points, a new lead-in paragraph. So, that would be something if you've already read to refocus on. Some slight changes in the introduction, including a timeline, which was taken off of the co-urbanized site. Alan added a content of housing affordability in Westborough. Some other things, I think mostly section 5, item number 5 there was, how who the stakeholders are. And then section 6 had a number of adds and changes to include types of projects, some funding and financial management, and some of our near-term priorities. And what it was going to be, and originally I thought an Appendix B with lots and lots of, if you will, references to various reports and studies. I've just put that as a link in Appendix A to a very good study. It was sort of an overview study, which in itself contains all the links. So it was just easier to do that, and I think it'll be more digestible by people. So that's where we are. I think this is the point. This is the time when everybody has to say, okay, I have a final draft version, and to go through it section by section and send in comments, corrections, additions if they think that's appropriate, or questions about you didn't deal with this, or should you deal with this, etc. So we really need to get this. I don't know if we have a date where we would want to deliver it and to the selectmen at a meeting. When's your next meeting now?
So the Board of Selectmen meets next Tuesday, and then the next meeting after that, I believe, is October 13th.
Yeah, Tuesday would be a little hard.
Yeah, I mean Tuesday's not viable, but I'm wondering if if our next meeting is in 2 weeks on October 2nd and we finalized and we're able to vote to finalize the document at that meeting, that gives us plenty of time to get it to the Board of Selectmen and to be on the agenda for October 13th.
Right. Yeah, I think we can get it to them, mail it out. One of the things what I would like to do, and I think it would be a nice gesture, is I can do a print off in color. I have a good color printer. Make up however number of copies, obviously one for each board, select board member, Christie, an extra one, and then to a list of other people that we think it would be prudent to get a hard copy to.
Okay, let me ask, because generally the board's been pretty efficient and has often expressed a preference to get things electronically.
We would do both, but
And so let me see if they'd
Okay.
like hard copies before you go through the effort of printing,
Okay.
collating, stapling, binding, and delivering. So okay. So does that schedule feel good to the group?
So what would be the date when we would, so we would vote on?
So I guess what I'm saying is if people were to get their feedback to you by the 23rd.
Next Wednesday?
Yeah.
Right.
And we could get the final version for people out maybe by the 29th, so that a meeting in 2 weeks on the 2nd, we can finalize and vote.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Okay, I'm just taking some notes. Okay, and I'll reach out to Shelby Marshall and have us placed on the October 13th agenda for the Board of Selectmen's meeting. Okay. Any other comments or concerns, items we should be covering that we might not have covered in the document? Anything we should emphasize in the document that we haven't discussed that we have today? If not, think about those questions as well and provide that feedback to Ed. Okay.
I would ask that people do I'll use the word proactive confirmation. Like if you don't see any significant issues, still email me saying, it's fine by me or whatever. That way we know that everybody has responded. I know it's a little extra nudge.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so moving on the agenda, our next item is to look at the warrant articles for special fall town meeting. And we don't have to vote on these yet again today as far as, the wording or our concurrence with it. Just a note sort of about the process is warrant articles do have a legal structure and form. And so the wording that we've drafted has been provided. It's been massaged by those who know, the proper structure and some of the legalese that happen. Once the full warrant is believed to be complete, it goes out to town council as well for review, who may come back with some additional suggestions. And so as we look at the warrant articles, and I'll share my screen just here in a moment. There are two things for us to consider about the structure of them. One is, the article itself, and secondly is the article information, right? That gets printed with the warrant article and will get printed in the Advisory Finance Committee's report and recommendations document that gets provided to participants at town meeting as well. So the first article on the warrant, I know in the past we've talked about whether there are 2 articles or 3 articles or 1. So just high level, I sent the note out as an FYI. I wanted people to be aware of what was happening before it was discussed publicly at Advisory Finance Committee last night. But the feedback from the finance team and the town manager is that with respect to the second article, Article 10, that the initial payment from the Del Webb Chauncey Lake project that was made that could not legally go into the stabilization fund, that went into the general fund and then on June 30th fell into free cash. And it is the preference and an expressed need that that money be removed from free cash at the first available opportunity, because it is technically, free cash is intended to be a reserve, and those funds are not a reserve. They have an intended purpose. And rather than transferring them into a stabilization fund, which is a vote of town meeting, and then a second vote of town meeting to move them into the trust, it's the preference and the recommendation and that Christy shared with me that all of that money move into the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust after it's created. So we'll talk about that in a second. The first article is about the creation of the trust. The structure of the article itself is pretty generic to how trusts get created, and the templates provided by the state and by the Mass Housing Partnership. One thought is that we modify the article and add the additional wording we put into our mission above and beyond the generic text that comes from the state statute.
Can you try to enlarge it a little bit?
Oh, sure.
It's a little small.
Okay, let me. How's that?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so the wording right now is to see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 55C, as part of the Town of Westborough General Bylaws, Article 10, and to establish a trust to be known as the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, the purpose of which shall be to provide for the creation and preservation of affordable housing in the town of Westborough for the benefit of low and moderate income households, substantially in the form as presented and which is on file with the town clerk and available for inspection. So a couple of things. One, if we wanted to, we could add to the mission beyond, we had had comments about helping with housing affordability in general for the community. And then the last part of that is just where it talks about substantially in the form as presented, means that a draft of the declaration of trust would be on file in the town clerk's office as well as on the website for public inspection prior to town meeting. It's technically not the final version of what actually gets filed, because the initial declaration of trust has to include the names of the initial set of trustees, and that won't be known until after town meeting and the bylaws changed, and then the Board of Selectmen need to make those appointments for that to happen. And so that's the reason for the wording there. There's article information that's very summary in nature. I don't know, maybe we want to enhance this a little bit. I'll send this out to folks, and if people think that there's some enhancement or a couple of additional sentences we could put in to explain what we're doing and what it is, that'll be fine. I expect we will make a short presentation at town meeting about the trust. Okay. Any comments or questions?
I think, it looks pretty good to me. I think the fact that we're going to be doing a presentation That allows us to keep the article a little shorter to avoid, I don't want to say confusion, but sometimes the longer the article, people start to, lose it as they go through, especially citing of general laws and things like that. My view would be more or less, I'll review it some more, but leave it as is. I don't know. Steve always has a good sense of town meeting, and he should write a book. Actually, I'll propose this called "The Art of the Town Meeting," because
I was just going to offer some thoughts, okay? We can expect, I think, that all the players, that is finance committees, the building committee, perhaps even the school committee, may have comments to this prior to, the solidification of the article and going to town meeting. So I suspect that all of them, including the town manager and town council, will basically bless this. And so, as you said, the less complicated at that point, the better. And so the response to questions that get into the nitty-gritty of text and phraseology and stuff like that will likely be answered by, a quick response from town council. And therefore, my feeling is once everything refers back to the Mass General laws as being the guide for what we're doing, and that, our text pretty much parallels that because Hank set it up that way, I think we're probably good to go without an awful lot of complications here. So my feeling is the shorter the better, because when everyone recommends that the town vote in favor of it, usually there aren't any significant questions beyond that other than perhaps a misspelling here or there. So my feeling is, we should keep it brief. And I have read this before, and I don't have any comments either. And now, having said my soliloquy, I have to leave now. Thanks.
Okay, so Steve, with your departure, we're actually going to lose our quorum. So if you can hang on for 30 seconds, please.
Okay.
I'll send out the articles and the article information just so people have it. I'll copy it into a document. If people have questions or concerns, feed them back to me. I'll feed them back to the town manager's office to do that. On that, our action items are ongoing, so I won't repeat them now. So at this point, we've completed the business as proposed in the agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
second,
Third.
Okay. So roll call vote. I'll start with you, Valeria.
Yes.
Ed.
Bain, yes.
Steve.
Yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So by a vote of 4-0-0, we are adjourned for being present. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate you being here this morning.
Have a good day and a good weekend, all. Thank you.
And
Bye-bye.
thank you again, Westborough TV. Oh, I never stopped presenting.